Snow fell in relentless sheets, coating the abandoned playground in a shroud of silence. On the rusted swing sat a frail little girl, no more than 6, her long brown hair tangled by the wind. She clutched a frayed teddy bear so tightly against her chest it seemed her very life depended on it. Her dress, once yellow, was now torn and grey with dirt, her knees scraped raw from falling on ice. Her eyes, wide, wet and hollow, stared at the snowdrift where she had tried to bury her hunger by eating fistfuls of ice. Her lips trembled as she whispered to the bear, "Why did she say I don't belong here?" The only answer was the groan of the swing chain and the moan of winter through broken metal pipes. From the distance, footsteps crunched on snow. At first the girl froze, clutching the bear harder, ready to bolt. But then a shadowy figure emerged through the swirling storm, a man broad-shouldered, his uniform camouflage faded by years of use. He moved with the cautious silence of someone trained to survive. By his side padded a German shepherd, its coat dusted white by falling flakes, eyes sharp but calm. The soldier saw her first. He stopped, lowered himself onto one knee and gave the faintest signal with his hand. The dog sat instantly, its gaze fixed, waiting for the man's command. The bond between them was wordless, steady, unshakable. He removed a glove, letting the icy air sting his skin, and held out his palm. Not toward the bear, not toward the dress, but toward her. The little girl's chest heaved. She had been abandoned before, tricked before. Trust was a foreign country. Yet something in the soldier's eyes, tired, yes, but not cruel, held her where she sat. The shepherd shifted, sensing her fear, and without being told, lay down in the snow, pressing his muzzle gently into the ground. Submission. Trust. An unspoken promise, you are safe. The soldier's voice was low, hoarse from cold. Easy. You don't have to be afraid. We're not here to hurt you. The girl's fingers dug deeper into the bear. She shook her head. They all say that. The man's jaw tightened, but he stayed where he was, letting the silence fill the gap. Finally, he slipped a ration bar from his pocket and placed it in the snow between them. The shepherd sniffed it but did not move, awaiting the signal. The man nudged it closer with 2 fingers, then pulled back. Not for me. For you, he said. The girl hesitated. Hunger gnawed so deep it made her dizzy. Slowly, shakily, she reached forward, snatched the bar, and retreated into herself again. She didn't unwrap it yet. She just held it, as if afraid it might vanish. Before we begin, let me know where you are watching from. Leave your country name in the comments below. And if you love stories about courage, loyalty, and community, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next stories. The soldier watched her bite into the ration, then asked softly, "What's your name?" She chewed once, swallowed hard, then whispered, "Mara." "Mara," he repeated, letting the name settle like an oath. "I'm Daniel. And this," he patted the shepherd's neck. "This is Ajax. He's my partner." At the sound of his name, Ajax wagged his tail once, then leaned his weight against Mara. She stiffened, but didn't pull away. Daniel's eyes scanned the horizon, always alert, always reading the terrain. He knew he shouldn't linger. His deployment clock was ticking. 3 months left before orders took him overseas. He had promised himself no distractions. But this wasn't a distraction. This was fate, sitting in the snow with bruised knees and hollow eyes. "Where's your family, Mara?" Her reply came broken, almost swallowed by the wind. "Gone." All gone. Daniel's throat tightened. He had heard that tone before, on other continents, in other wars, the tone of a child who had learned too early that adults could vanish. He adjusted his pack, already calculating. Shelter, warmth, food, get her safe. That was step 1. But as he stood to lift her, headlights flickered through the snowfall. Not from a friendly patrol. From the road below the playground, 2 black SUVs crawled forward, engines growling, their beams slicing the storm. Ajax growled low, ears pricking. Daniel's instinct screamed this was no coincidence. He scooped Mara into his arms. Her teddy bear dangled between them, wet with melting snow. She whimpered, but didn't fight. The soldier's grip was steady, strong. Mara pressed her lips to his collar and whispered, almost too soft to hear, "Please don't send me back." The words stabbed deeper than any bullet. Daniel's jaw clenched. The SUVs slowed, doors cracked open, shadows spilled into the snow. He whispered back, "I won't." And Ajax's bark ripped through the storm like thunder as danger closed in. The SUVs idled at the curb like predators scenting blood. Doors opened in unison. 4 figures stepped into the snowfall, dark coats, faces shadowed by knit caps. One pointed up toward the playground. Another spoke into a radio. Ajax's growl slid from his chest, low and steady, the sound of a fuse burning down. Daniel shifted Mara's weight against his chest, felt how light she was, how the bones in her shoulder pressed through the thin dress. "Arms around my neck," he murmured. "Teddy on the inside so you don't drop him." She did as she was told, jaw clenched, eyes on the men below. "Who are they?" "People who don't get to decide what happens to you," he said. "Ready, partner?" He glanced at Ajax. The shepherd's ears ticked forward. "Ready." The hill that led away from the playground dropped into a thicket of bare-limbed brush. In summer, a child's cut-through. In winter, a frozen gauntlet. Daniel scanned the slope. Footsteps would show. He picked the only route that offered cover, a line of maple trunks, a derelict equipment shed, a chain-link fence with a hole near the bottom. "On me," he whispered, and slid down the embankment, boot heels digging furrows, Ajax, ghosting ahead, nose high, reading the world. A shout cracked the air. "Up there!" "Move!" Mara buried her face against Daniel's collar, the teddy bear wedged between them. "Please don't let go," she said into the wool. "I won't," he answered, because promises demanded plain words. They reached the shed. Daniel shouldered the warped door inward just enough to squeeze Mara and Ajax through, then pulled it shut with a breathless thud. The smell inside was sawdust and old oil. A square of moon-pale light leaked through a knothole, silvering Ajax's eyes. "Breathe slow," Daniel said. "Count to 4 in, 4 out." Mara tried, breath hitching at first, then smoothing by degrees. Daniel listened past their breathing to the snow-muted street, the SUV engines idling, the crunch of boots spreading out into the park, the tick of radios answering radios. "We have 3 months," he murmured without meaning to, a thought slipping into sound. Mara lifted her head. 3 months? "Before I deploy," he said. He didn't add the rest. Before the rhythm of another war took him somewhere he could not plan and could not promise. That's a lot of time to change a life. "Whose?" she asked, small and piercing. "Ours," he said, and surprised himself with the truth in it. A beam of light swept the shed's warped seam. Voices angled closer. Daniel touched Ajax's withers. Silent watch. The dog's breathing flattened to a whisper. A fist hammered the door once, twice. "Maintenance," a voice lied through the wood. "Anyone inside?" Daniel said nothing. Another hammer blow. The latch quivered. He mapped the angles in his head. 10 feet to the back wall, 3 to the low window, 6 to the floor. Drain that probably led nowhere. He slid his fingers along the wall until he found the window latch. It was rusted. Of course it was. He pressed his mouth to Mara's ear. "When I lift you, you push with everything you've got. Ajax goes first. Then you, what about you?" "I'm right behind." He gave her a crooked smile. "I'm old. I move last." Her tiny grin flickered, gone as fast as it came, but it warmed the cold like a struck match. Outside, the voice conferred with another. "We'll check the shed," the second man said. Metal whispered. Crowbar on wood. "Ready," Daniel breathed. He lifted. Mara braced her palms under the window, put her shoulder into the frame, and shoved. It didn't move. She made a small, furious sound, shoved again. Rust sang, the wood gave a fraction, Ajax, reading pressure like a second language, reared gently, pressed his forelegs against the wall and his bulk into the frame. The sash scraped upward an inch, then two. Snow's sweet air licked their cheeks. Daniel pointed. Ajax vaulted cleanly through, dropping into the drift beyond with a soft woof. "Your turn, Mara." She squeezed the teddy under her chin, set one knee on the sill, and wriggled through, boots kicking a little. Daniel caught the back of her dress, supported, let go. She tumbled into a pillow of snow. Ajax was already braced to block the fall with his shoulder. The crowbar bit the door seam. Wood groaned. Daniel slid after them, clearing the sill, rolling into the drift, and pulling the window down to its previous notch. The door behind him shrieked as it gave way. A flashlight's cone carved the darkness inside. "Empty," a voice said. "They doubled back." Daniel flattened his profile, motioned low. Ajax slunk along the wall. Mara copied the dog without being told, small body learning nature's quiet. They moved under the eaves, past the frozen rain barrel, along the fence to the hole Daniel had clocked from the hill. He belly-crawled through first, snow searing his wrists like wire. Ajax flowed through after, then Mara, who gritted her teeth and dragged the teddy by one ear. On the far side, the city shifted from park to service alley. Dumpsters, steam venting from a grating, the metallic hush of a main road 2 blocks over. Daniel led them down the alley, steps spaced irregularly to confuse anyone reading sign. Twice he stopped and listened. Twice Ajax confirmed his judgment with a glance. Clear, move. They reached a metal door with a keypad, painted the same color as the wall, nearly invisible. Daniel keyed a sequence with gloved fingers. The lock thunked. Inside, warm air hit their faces like a benediction. The door shut on the snow and the chase. The charity clinic's after-hours lobby lay half-lit, the reception counter unmanned, a vending machine strobing its single red LED. Daniel had repaired their backdoor keypad for a friend last winter. He'd never been so grateful for a favor owed. He guided Mara into a treatment room the size of a storage closet. "Up on the cot," he said. She obeyed without argument, too exhausted to be brave anymore. While Ajax took station by the door, Daniel ran warm water, pulled a pack of butterfly bandages from a wall cabinet, cleaned the grit from her knees with a gentleness that made her eyes water for a different reason. "Does it hurt?" he asked. She shook her head, not like before. "What happened before?" he said, keeping his voice neutral, giving her the option to put the word away. "She said I was loud when I slept," Mara murmured. "So she locked the pantry?" Her eyes found his. "If I didn't cry, she said I could have a piece of bread on Sunday." Ajax made a sound Daniel had heard only once before, the day a wounded private had asked if pain meant God hated him. A low, grieving note. Daniel taped the last strip and leaned back on his heels. "Mara," he said, steady as a handrail, "you will never be made to earn food in my presence. It's not a prize. It's a right." A tear slid sideways into her hair. She nodded, slow. He poured cocoa mix from a cabinet packet into a paper cup and filled it with hot water from the dispenser. "Small sips. It's not much like the real thing, but it's warm." She wrapped both hands around the cup. "You talk like you practiced." "I have," he said. "People forget to talk to children like they're people." "I forget too. I'm trying to remember." He set his phone on the counter and typed one-handed, "Walker here, child safe for now, hostiles mobile, need interim placement under seal. Clock, 90 days. The reply came from a contact who never used names. Copy, routing to Judge Harrow. Shelter B possible. You good? Daniel glanced at Ajax. The shepherd lifted his head, pausing mid-breath as if to say, "We're fine until we're not." Daniel texted, "Good enough." Then after a beat, "She's starving. Bring clothes." Mara's voice, small. 90 days? Daniel pocketed the phone. 90 days until I ship out. It's a lot and not enough. Will you come back? The question was so simple, it broke something soft in the room. He didn't lie. I intend to. While I'm gone, people I trust will make sure you're safe. And fed, he held her gaze. And wanted. Her breath shook again. I've never been wanted. Then let this be the first time, he said. The building sighed around them, the old heat cycling, a pipe knocking somewhere, the city's night rhythm settling like a blanket. For a moment, Daniel let the quiet be medicine. He reached into his ruck, and from a pocket he kept for rookies and strangers, pulled a knit cap, washed, folded, nearly new. For you, he said. Yellow felt right. She smoothed the cap's seam with a thumb and pulled it on. It slid down to her eyebrows. Ajax leaned in and touched his nose to the top of it, as if blessing the choice. The clinic's back door buzzed softly, a signal from the keypad outside. Daniel went still, every nerve a tuned wire. He looked at Ajax. The dog shifted from rest to readiness with a single breath. "Stay here," Daniel told Mara. "If I say closet, you get in there with Ajax, and you don't come out until I open it." She nodded, white-knuckling the teddy. He stepped into the hall, shoulders loose, hands open at his sides. Through the small wired glass in the janitor door, he saw only a strip of night. He reached the back vestibule, keyed the intercom. Clinic's closed. A male voice, low. "Walker?" No name, just the old call sign. Daniel weighed the voice, the cadence. He pressed the release. The door opened onto a man in a parka with a badge lanyard tucked under his coat, and a woman holding two duffels. Both kept their hands visible, their breath smoked. Snow dusted their shoulders. "Judge signed an emergency removal," the man said. "We can move the child to shelter. B, the church rectory on 12th. 6 beds, 2 volunteers. Anonymous intake." The woman lifted one duffel. "Clothes, shoes, food, a toy or two. Sorry they're mismatched. We came fast. Fast is the only speed I like," Daniel said. He studied their faces, found tired kindness and the steadiness of people paid in gratitude, not money. He nodded toward the exam room. "She's in here." They stepped in carefully, the woman lowering herself to Mara's eye line, palms open. "Hi, honey." "I'm Ruth. This is David. We heard you had a hard night. We brought cocoa." She noticed the cup in Mara's hands and managed a rueful smile. "Well, more cocoa." Mara watched Daniel, not them. He spoke first. "These are friends. They help kids who were given the wrong story about themselves." Ruth's eyes glimmered. "That's exactly what we do." For the first time, Mara reached her hand toward a stranger first. Ruth didn't take it. She let Mara place it on her palm, then closed her fingers gently around the little hand, like someone wrapping a seedling against frost. "Shelter B?" Daniel said to David, keeping his voice low. "Anon. 2 nights max, then foster placement with precedent for kinship if any exists." He hesitated. "And Walker, there's chatter. Your black SUVs are moving again." Daniel tilted his head. "How many?" 2. Plate covers. No patrol stops logged." David swallowed. "They're not afraid of fines." Daniel turned back to Mara. "Coat on," he said softly. "We're taking a ride." "Where?" Her fear tried to come back but found less to cling to. "To a warm place with a lock only friends can open," he said. He passed her the knit cap again, tugged it down just so. Ajax stationed himself on her left, forming the other half of a door no one could breach. They moved toward the back exit in a small constellation. Daniel, Mara, Ajax, Ruth, David, 5 bodies against a winter full of teeth. Outside, the snow had gentled to a sift, the kind that made corners soft and hid the sharpness of the world. They were halfway to the car when Ajax stopped dead. His ears went knife-sharp, his body stacked. A half-second later, Daniel heard it too, tires angling fast onto the side street, the hiss of brakes, doors slamming, headlights cut across the alley like prison search beams. "Closet," Daniel said, the word a flint spark. Ruth and David pivoted, shepherding Mara back through the clinic door. Ajax stood sideways in the threshold, broad as a barricade. Daniel stepped into the alley, shoulders squared to the light, eyes narrowed against the glare. A voice called from beyond the beams, calm, confident. "You have something that belongs to us." Daniel's breath fogged, slow and even. "Children don't belong to men in vans." "She's not a child," the voice said, with the casual cruelty of a man who had stopped recognizing people as people. "She's leverage." Something in Daniel's face went still and dangerous. The deployment clock ticked in his mind, 89 days, 23 hours, and then vanished, replaced by the only number that mattered: one life. He lifted a hand without looking back. Ajax eased the door shut behind him with his shoulder until only a sliver of warm light rimmed the jam. "Gentlemen," Daniel said to the dark, the tired humor in his voice dropping away to the iron underneath. "This is the last time I'm going to ask nicely." The headlights shifted, raising their aim as if to blind him. "Step away from the door," the voice said. "Now." Daniel rolled his neck once, the old habit before the first bell. "Ajax," he said, never taking his eyes off the light. "Hold." The shepherd's body tensed like a loaded spring just inside the door, and then, from the black mouth of the alley, a figure lunged, metal glinting in his hand, boots slipping in snow, speed born of arrogance. Daniel moved. The night shattered. The alley erupted in motion, steel against snow, breath against steam. Daniel pivoted just as the man lunged, arm extended with a knife that glinted under the SUV headlights. His training took over. He caught the attacker's wrist, twisted hard, and felt the blade clatter into the drift. The man grunted, but before he could recover, Ajax launched. The German shepherd slammed into the intruder's chest, driving him down into the snow. A bark thundered from Ajax's throat, primal and warning. The man froze, staring into the dog's bared teeth, inches from his jugular. Two more figures spilled out of the SUV. Daniel raised his sidearm in one smooth arc. "Stop right there," he barked, voice steady, resonant against the alley walls. They hesitated, weapons half drawn. Their hesitation was enough. Behind Daniel, the clinic door cracked open. Mara's small face peeked through, her torn teddy bear pressed to her cheek. Her eyes were wide, not just with fear, but with something new. "Resolve," Daniel cursed softly under his breath. He angled his body to block her view. "Stay inside," he ordered, his tone sharper than he meant. Her lip trembled, but she whispered back, "Please don't die." The words pierced deeper than the cold ever could. Ruth's defiance. Ruth pulled Mara back, crouching to meet her eyes. "Honey, let him handle this." "That's what soldiers do." She brushed Mara's hair out of her face. "Our job is to keep you safe while he keeps them back." Mara shook her head, tears streaking down her cheeks. "Every time someone says that, they don't come back." David swallowed, exchanging a glance with Ruth. His knuckles tightened on the duffel strap he carried. "She's seen too much," he murmured. The standoff, Daniel kept his pistol leveled, eyes locked on the men advancing. His voice was steel-wrapped in calm. "You've got 10 seconds to walk away." No second chances. One of the men sneered. "You don't get it." "She's not just a kid. She's the reason your 3 months don't matter." The words hit Daniel like a ricochet, his deployment, his countdown. They knew. His grip tightened on the gun, fury rising. "What do you mean by that?" he demanded. The man only smirked. "Ask her father." Daniel's chest went cold. He shot a quick glance toward the clinic door, Mara's silhouette framed in the light, small and shaking. He couldn't let her hear more. Ajax growled low, reading Daniel's rage, his own muscles coiled like a spring. The first man shifted a step closer. Daniel fired. The round cracked, echoing off brick, shattering the night. The man fell into the snow with a grunt. The others ducked behind the SUV, returning fire. Bullets sparked off the dumpster. Daniel dropped, pulling Ajax back by the collar. Snow sprayed into the air, mixing with smoke and the acrid bite of gunpowder. Mara's choice. Inside, Mara covered her ears against the gunfire. Ruth tried to guide her away, but Mara fought her grip. She darted toward the closet Daniel had pointed out earlier, dragging Ajax's spare leash from the floor. She hugged the teddy bear tighter. "I can't just hide," she whispered to herself. "Not if they're here for me." Her voice shook, but her eyes burned with a fragile courage. A whisper that cut deep outside. Daniel reloaded behind cover, heart pounding. The firefight was messy, too exposed, too close to civilians. Ajax pressed against him, waiting for the next hand signal. Through the chaos, Daniel heard it, soft, fragile, almost lost in the thunder of combat. Mara's voice, carried by the wind. "Daddy's not dead!" Daniel froze. The world narrowed to that single sentence. The gunfire dulled, the SUVs blurred. All he could hear was the conviction in her whisper. If she was right, then everything, the black SUVs, the coded slip, the hunger used as punishment, was part of a truth too big to ignore. And Daniel knew, in that instant, that these men weren't just chasing an orphan. They were hunting a secret. He clenched his jaw, fire lighting in his veins. He glanced at Ajax, gave a sharp signal. "Time to end this!" The dog bared his teeth in answer, ready to strike. And as the headlights glared and the enemies closed in, Daniel braced himself, not just for the fight, but for the storm of truth about to break. The snow swallowed sound as quickly as it gave it. Gunfire echoed down the alley, then died into silence, leaving only the whistle of the wind and the hiss of cooling engines. Daniel crouched low behind the dumpster, pistol steady, lungs pulling sharp breaths of frozen air. Beside him, Ajax's chest heaved, every fiber of the dog's body vibrating with restraint. One word, one gesture, and he would launch. From the corner of his eye, Daniel caught the smallest shadow, Mara, peeking out from the clinic door, teddy bear clutched. Against her chest. His gut tightened. She shouldn't be here. "Mara!" he hissed, motioning her back. But she didn't move. Her lips shaped the words again, silent this time but clear. "Daddy's not dead." Daniel's mind spun. It explained everything, the coded slip, the SUVs, the obsession with her. Her father hadn't vanished. He'd been hidden. And this child, this fragile girl, was the key, retreat into the night. The men by the SUV regrouped, shouting orders. Headlights flared again, sweeping across the alley. Daniel made his choice. He pressed his hand against Ajax's shoulder, giving the signal, cover, and break. The shepherd growled low in answer. Daniel pivoted, fired 2 rounds into the air, not to kill, but to shock. The shots cracked the night, sending the enemy scrambling for cover. He bolted for the clinic door, Ajax at his flank. "Inside! Now!" Daniel barked. Ruth yanked Mara back, David slamming the door as Daniel threw his shoulder against it. Ajax spun, planting himself in front of Mara, lips curled back in a snarl. The thud of fists hit the door a heartbeat later. "Move!" Daniel commanded. "Back hall!" They raced down a corridor lined with flickering lights, their footsteps echoing in the emptiness. At the end, a fire exit gaped, icy wind pouring through. Daniel shoved them out into the service street beyond, his breath steaming in the night. The train yard beyond the alley, the old freight yard sprawled, half buried in snow. Idle cars stretched into the darkness, hulks of steel and shadow. Daniel scanned the horizon. "If we stay on roads, they'll catch us." "But on rails." He gestured to the dark shapes of boxcars. "We buy time." Mara clung to his sleeve. "Where will it take us?" "Doesn't matter," he said. "Anywhere away from here." Ajax tugged forward, nose to the ground, ears twitching. The shepherd picked the path, weaving between abandoned cars. Daniel followed, guiding Mara close, Ruth and David just behind. The howl of SUV engines rose again in the distance. Headlights swept across the yard, searching. Daniel quickened his pace. His boots crunched against the snow-dusted ties. Then he heard it, the groan of wheels, the low thunder of an engine. A freight train was rolling slow along the line. "This way," he shouted. The leap. The boxcar doors yawned open, a dark mouth sliding past. The train picked up speed. Timing was razor-thin. Daniel hoisted Mara first, lifting her into Ruth's waiting arms. David scrambled in after, dragging the duffels. Ajax leapt next, claws scraping steel, landing solidly inside. Daniel ran alongside the moving car, breath burning in his chest. Gunshots cracked behind him. Sparks leapt from the rails. He jumped, grabbed the icy edge of the door, and hauled himself inside. The train carried them away, the SUVs shrinking into the night. Inside, the boxcar darkness wrapped around them. The only light seeped through cracks in the wooden slats, thin silver strips across their faces. The air reeked of hay and rust. The floor shuddered beneath them as the wheels hammered the rails. Mara curled against Ajax, her teddy bear pressed between them. The shepherd licked her cheek once, as if sealing a promise. Daniel sat opposite, his rifle across his knees, every nerve alive. He finally let himself breathe. Ruth passed Mara a bottle of water. David dug into the duffel and pulled out a child's coat, wrapping it around her thin frame. "Why do they want her?" Ruth asked quietly. Daniel rubbed a hand over his stubbled jaw. "Because she carries something they can't let out. Her father. He's alive." He held up the coded slip. "And he left this. It's more than numbers. It's a map." Mara's voice was small but steady. "He wanted me to find him." Daniel met her eyes. For a moment, the soldier and the child shared the same fire, a refusal to surrender. The whisper of faith. The train jolted, rocking them. Snow swirled through the gaps, glittering in the slivers of moonlight. Mara laid her head against Ajax and whispered, "If Daddy's not dead, maybe God didn't forget us." Daniel closed his eyes, hearing in her words the thing he hadn't dared believe for years. Not faith, not miracles, but the possibility of both. He opened them again, watching the dark blur of the passing night. He knew the fight wasn't over. The enemy would follow. The code was only the beginning, but for the first time there was more than survival pulling him forward. There was purpose, and it sat in front of him with tangled hair, a torn teddy bear, and eyes too old for 6 years. The freight train thundered into the frozen night, its wheels hammering the rails like a beating heart. Inside the boxcar, shadows stretched across rusted walls. Each jolt rattled loose nails and sent straw drifting through the cold air. Daniel sat with his back against the steel frame, rifle across his knees, listening. Every sound carried meaning, the creak of timber, the rhythm of wheels, even Mara's faint breathing where she curled against Ajax. The girl clutched her teddy bear under her new coat, her head resting on the German shepherd's shoulder. Ajax's ears twitched at every rumble outside, his body a wall of muscle and loyalty between Mara and the world. Ruth and David huddled near the far corner, whispering to one another. They looked worn but determined. People who had carried too many children through too many storms. Daniel's gaze fell back to the slip of paper, the code. The numbers glared up at him like a riddle carved into fate itself. 12.1, 9.4, 5/7B/46-09/2. The code. Mara crawled closer, her knees scuffing against the floor. She pointed a small finger at the paper. "What does it say?" Daniel shifted, showing her the lines. "It looks like coordinates. Numbers that mark a place. See here, 12, 19, 45. That could be latitude. And this, 7B, maybe a sector. The last part might be a lock code or steps in a sequence." Her brow furrowed. "So Daddy left me a map." Daniel studied her face, so fragile, yet in that moment blazing with determination. "Yes," he said softly. "He wanted you to carry it." "Not anyone else." Ruth's eyes glistened in the shadows. "Then we're not just running," she whispered. "We're following a trail." The pursuit returns. The train shrieked as it took a curve, sparks scattering into the night. Daniel peered through a crack in the door and froze. Headlights, 2 sets, weaving through the snow along a parallel service road, the same black SUVs. "They've found us," Daniel muttered. Ajax growled low, his hackles rising. Mara gripped the teddy tighter. "They won't stop, will they?" "No," Daniel said. His voice was calm, but his eyes burned. "But neither will we." Preparing for the fight, he checked the rifle, slid a fresh magazine into place. He handed Ruth a small flashlight. "Keep it pointed low. Don't blind anyone inside. If I say move, you grab Mara and go." Ruth swallowed hard. Go where? Anywhere but here, Daniel answered. Ajax padded to the door, muscles taut, every movement tuned to Daniel's signals. The soldier gave a sharp nod. The bond between them needed no words. The train jolted again, slowing as it approached a junction. Daniel's gut twisted. They'll try to board when the speed drops. Stay behind me, he told Mara. I want to help, she whispered. You already have, he said. You believed. The boarding. A thud slammed against the boxcar wall, then another, the sound of boots scrambling against steel. Daniel raised the rifle. Here they come! The door shuddered as crowbars pried at the edge. Metal screeched, sparks flying. Ajax barked once, the sound exploding in the confined space like a warning shot of its own. The door slid open a crack. A masked face appeared, eyes glinting. Daniel fired. The man fell backward into the snow, swallowed by the night. Another shadow leapt up, grabbing the edge of the door. Ajax launched, teeth snapping. The intruder screamed as he lost his grip, tumbling down the embankment. But more came. Figures clambered along the side, boots striking metal, their voices shouted orders lost in the wind. Mara's whisper. Mara pressed against the wall, her breath hitching. Yet through the fear she whispered with sudden fire, her words cutting through the chaos. Daddy's not dead. The intruders hesitated. For the briefest instant, their advance faltered. Daniel's stomach clenched. They know he's alive. He fired again, sparks showering. Ajax lunged, driving another man back. Snow whipped into the boxcar through the open seam, stinging like needles. The oath. Daniel dropped beside Mara, cupping her face with his calloused hand. Listen to me. You were right. He's alive. That's why they want you. But they'll never take you before you find him. I swear it. Her tears spilled hot against his glove. Promise? He kissed the top of her head. Promise. Ajax pressed against them both, the steady drum of his heartbeat anchoring the storm. The train roared forward, carrying them deeper into the night, away from the reach of headlights and into the unknown. For the first time, Daniel felt the impossible stirring in his chest. Faith. Not in luck, not in war, but in the fragile, fierce girl at his side. And he knew. 3 months might not be enough, but tonight it would have to be. The boxcar rattled like a drum, iron wheels hammering the frozen rails. Outside, the storm screamed against the steel skin, but inside the storm had faces, masked, relentless, climbing the train like wolves, circling prey. Daniel's finger tightened on the trigger. Ajax crouched low, his muscles coiled like a spring, eyes glowing in the slivers of light that cut through the gaps. Mara pressed herself against the wall, clutching her teddy bear so hard its seams creaked. The door shuddered again. Metal teeth squealed as crowbars bit into the edge. A shadow slipped through the gap, an arm first, then a boot. Daniel fired. The bullet sparked, ricocheting, grazing the man's sleeve. He screamed, dropped back into the snow, but 2 more replaced him instantly, grappling at the edges, forcing the door wider. Chaos in the boxcar snow blasted into the car as the door tore open wider. A man lunged in, boots hitting the floor. Ajax launched, a blur of fur and teeth. The shepherd slammed him down, jaws locking on the man's arm. Another intruder vaulted in behind. Daniel turned, rifle raised, but the man was fast. He slammed into Daniel, knocking the weapon sideways. The gun clattered into the straw. Daniel fought barehanded, his fist driving into the man's jaw. The soldier's breath steamed in the cold, every move born of training and fury. He caught the man's coat, spun him, and drove him into the wall with a grunt that rattled the steel. Mara screamed as a third figure climbed through the gap. Ruth shoved Mara behind her, shielding the child with her own body. David scrambled for a length of pipe on the floor, swinging it wildly to hold the attacker at bay. The fight turned the boxcar into a furnace of noise, barking, shouting, fists thudding, steel groaning under weight. Mara's defiance. Through the chaos, Mara broke from Ruth's grasp. She darted forward, clutching the teddy bear in one hand, her other hand reaching for the coded slip Daniel had dropped. She pressed it to her chest and shouted with a voice that cut through the storm, "You can't stop me!" "Daddy left this for me." The intruders froze, just for a second, long enough. Daniel seized the moment, elbowing the man in front of him, grabbing his collar and heaving him out the door into the snow. Ajax released his grip. The man, under him, tumbling after. The car rocked as bodies slammed against steel, then vanished into the dark. Only one remained inside. He stared at Mara with a strange hunger in his eyes. "She's the key," he whispered. Daniel's blood ran cold. He raised the rifle, retrieved in the scuffle, and leveled it squarely at the man. Not tonight. One shot. Clean. The man dropped. Aftermath. The boxcar fell silent except for the roar of the storm and the rattling train. Straw floated in the air, lit by thin beams of moonlight. Ajax padded back to Mara, pressing against her side, his fur streaked with snow and blood. Daniel crouched, breathing hard, and placed his hands on Mara's shoulders. "Are you hurt?" She shook her head, tears streaming. They knew about Daddy." "I know," Daniel said. His voice cracked despite his effort. "And that means you were right all along." Ruth and David stood trembling, their faces pale but resolute. Ruth's hand clutched David's sleeve as if drawing strength from the touch. Daniel turned back to Mara. "You're the reason they're chasing us." "But you're also the reason we're going to win. Your father left you a trail and now we're going to follow it." Her lip trembled. "Promise." He brushed a strand of hair from her eyes. "Promise." The oath renewed. The train screamed over a bridge, its wheels sparking. Below, icy water foamed, black and bottomless. Mara clutched Daniel's sleeve as if she might be swept away. He pulled her close, his words firm, carved from the steel of conviction. "You'll never go back to the people who hurt you, not while I'm breathing, not while Ajax is standing." The shepherd barked once, sharp and final, as if sealing the oath. Mara's tears shimmered in the silver light. She pressed the teddy bear against her face and whispered into the fur, "Please let Daddy be alive." And for the first time in years, Daniel, battle-hardened, scarred, nearly broken, closed his eyes and prayed. Not for himself, not for survival, but for a little girl, her missing father, and the miracle that might still be waiting at the end of the rails. The freight train groaned as it barreled through the wilderness, each wheel striking the frozen rails like a hammer. Dawn's first light began to seep over the horizon, spilling pale gold through the cracks of the boxcar. For the first time all night, the shadows loosened their grip. Daniel sat against the wall, his rifle across his knees, eyes heavy but alert. Ajax lay curled at Mara's side, the girl nestled against his warmth. Her torn teddy bear was pinned tightly to her chest, her small fingers locked on the coded slip of paper as if it were the last piece of her soul. She stirred awake, blinking at Daniel. "Did we win?" Daniel gave a tired half smile. "We survived." "That's the only kind of winning that matters right now," the code revisited. When Ruth and David handed her a piece of bread from the duffel, Mara broke it in two, giving half to Ajax before taking a bite herself. The gesture made Daniel's throat tighten. Even in hunger, even in fear, she gave. Her gaze drifted to the folded slip in her lap. "Can we look again?" Daniel took it gently from her, smoothing it open. 12/1945/7 B/46-09/2. He studied the numbers under the new light. "Those first digits, they're not just latitude," he murmured. "It's a date. December 19th, 1945. David frowned. "That's after the war." "Or a code referencing an event," Daniel said. "Military records sometimes use old wars as anchors. And this, 7B, that could be a grid sector, maybe an old rail line marker. It would fit with the train." Mara's eyes sharpened. "So Daddy wanted me to follow the train?" Daniel's lips pressed tight. "It's possible. And if so, he left this as a breadcrumb. A trail, a spark of faith." Mara pressed the teddy against her face. "If he left me a map, it means he believed I could find him." Her voice trembled, but her eyes glowed with something Daniel hadn't seen before, fire, not fear. "You're right," Daniel said softly. "He trusted you with this. And I trust you too." Ajax shifted, resting his massive head in Mara's lap. She stroked his ears with her tiny hands. "Then we'll find him." All of us trouble on the rails. The train screeched as it hit a curve, slowing slightly. Through a gap in the door, Daniel caught sight of something that made his stomach knot. Vehicles in the distance, paralleling the tracks. "They're still with us," he muttered. Ruth paled. "How?" "Doesn't matter how," Daniel said grimly. "Only that they won't stop." He signaled Ajax, who rose immediately, ears pricked. The shepherd padded to the door, reading his partner's tension. Mara clutched Daniel's sleeve. "What if they catch us?" He knelt to her level. "Then we fight. And we don't stop until you're safe. That's not a maybe, it's a promise." The climb. The sound of boots scraping metal echoed outside. Shadows crawled up the side of the train. The enemy had found a way to climb aboard again. Daniel raised his rifle, motioned Ruth and David to pull Mara back. Ajax's growl rolled like thunder. A hand gripped the edge of the door. Daniel fired once. Sparks lit the snow. The hand vanished, but others replaced it. The girl squeezed her teddy tighter, whispering, "Daddy, guide us." The whisper of truth. One of the men shouted over the roar of the rails, "She belongs to us!" "She's leverage." Daniel's blood froze. His finger tightened on the trigger. "Say that again!" The man sneered. "You think you're protecting a child? She's not just a girl. She's the lock. And her father, he's still out there. We'll trade her for him." Mara's sob broke through the chaos. "I knew it. I knew he wasn't dead." The revelation struck Daniel harder than the storm. Her father was alive, and these men confirmed it with their own arrogance. The oath renewed. Daniel roared, his voice cutting through wind and steel. "You'll never touch her." "Not while I breathe." Ajax lunged at the gap, a wall of muscle and fury. The men cursed, pulling back. Gunfire cracked, bullets sparking against steel. Daniel returned fire, every shot a vow carved in lead. Ruth shielded Mara, whispering prayers into her hair. David pressed his back against the wall, pipe gripped in white-knuckled hands. Mara's whisper threaded through the chaos, fragile yet unbreakable. "We'll find you, Daddy, I promise." And Daniel felt the words sink into his bones like iron. The train roared into the rising sun, dragging them closer to the unknown. The fight wasn't finished, but the truth had been lit like a beacon in the storm. Her father was alive. And now, nothing, no SUV, no shadow, no war would stop them from finding him. The freight train screamed across a frozen valley, carrying them into the light of dawn. The storm had thinned, leaving the world glazed in silver. Fields stretched endlessly, trees bowed heavy with frost, the sky painted pale gold. Inside the boxcar, Mara stirred awake, still clutching her teddy bear and the coded slip. Her eyes opened slowly, adjusting to the brightness leaking through the cracks. Ajax lay curled at her side, ears twitching with each rattle of the train, a silent guardian who had not slept. Daniel sat by the door, rifle resting across his lap. The weight of exhaustion pressed on him, but his eyes never closed. He had lived too many deployments, too many nights when one blink could cost lives. Yet this night had been different. Not a war zone, not foreign soil, a child, a secret, and a fight for something deeper than orders. Mara rubbed her eyes, looked up at him and whispered, "Are we closer?" Daniel studied the code again. 12-1945/7B/46-09/2. His finger traced the numbers. "Closer than we were yesterday," he said softly. "Closer than they want us to be." The point of light. The train slowed as it neared a junction, the brakes squealing against ice. Through the open seam of the door, Daniel spotted a marker on the trackside, a rusted sign barely visible through the snow. 7B. His breath caught. He pointed it out to Mara. "There. Your father left this trail for you. We're on the right path. Her small hand pressed the teddy bear to her chest, eyes wide. Then he really wants me to find him? Daniel gave a short nod. And we will. Ajax barked once, sharp and sure, as if sealing the vow. The final confrontation. But peace was fragile. The sound of engines returned, faint at first, then louder. Through the trees, headlights emerged, pacing the slowing train. Black SUVs again. Shadows spilled out, sprinting toward the tracks. Daniel's stomach tightened. They're back! Ruth clutched, Mara close. David gripped the pipe until his knuckles went white. The first intruder climbed onto the car, boots scraping steel. Ajax growled, his entire body vibrating. Daniel raised his rifle, steady. The door slid open an inch, enough for a gloved hand to grip. Daniel fired, the shot cracking the morning. The hand vanished, a body tumbling into snow. Another climbed, snarling threats. Ajax lunged, teeth sinking into fabric and flesh, dragging the man down. Gunfire sparked from the road, bullets slamming into the steel walls of the boxcar. Mara screamed, clutching her teddy tighter. Daniel braced himself in front of her, every muscle alive with fury. "You'll never take her!" he roared into the wind. "The miracle of survival!" The firefight raged for minutes, though it felt like eternity. Daniel's shots rang true. Ajax fought like a storm unleashed. Ruth shielded Mara with her own body, whispering prayers through every bullet strike. David swung his pipe at any shadow that dared climb close. And then, silence. The SUVs had faltered. One lay smoking in the ditch, another limped back down the service road. The train pulled free, the valley widening before them. Daniel lowered his rifle, chest heaving. Ajax panted heavily, blood streaking his fur, but not his own. He pressed his head against Mara's lap, eyes calm, steady as ever. Mara stroked him with trembling fingers, her tears spilling freely now. "We did it," she whispered. Daniel knelt, his hand resting on Ajax's back. "No, you did it," he said to her. "Your belief carried us through." Toward the future. As the train carried them forward, Daniel unfolded the slip one last time. The numbers glowed in the morning light, no longer just code, but a promise. "Your father's alive," he said, his voice low, steady, certain. "And this map, it will lead us to him." "You were right all along." Mara's eyes filled again, but this time with hope. She hugged the teddy bear close, whispering, "We'll find you, Daddy." Daniel pulled her gently into his arms, his voice rough with a vow. "Not just you. We'll find him." Together Ajax barked once, short and sharp, his tail thumping against the steel floor like a drumbeat of loyalty. The train thundered toward the horizon, carrying with it 3 lives bound not by blood, but by sacrifice, loyalty, and a love that refused to break. And for the first time in years, Daniel let himself believe in something more than survival. He believed in miracles.